All right, phase 2 of the magazine layout process. Here we are with the 2-page spread magazine article. And this is pretty generic as far as an example of how you could possibly go through this. Please don't look at it literally and turn it into what you create for your own project. This is merely me thinking my way to create a 2-page spread for this article, including color and content. So you make sure that you figure out how it is you want to attack this. Okay, so breaking this down, there are a few very simple things happening here. The very first thing we look at from left to right, top to bottom, is the headline for the article. And this is just text. So it's a text field with some type in it, and I created the Space Combat words with a font that I got off of dafont.com, and I dealt with scale, color, and leading to bring them tight into that little box so they would actually work for me in this. What's behind the Space Combat text is a shape that was created here in InDesign, not something like Illustrator or Photoshop. So it's merely a rectangle using the rectangle tool, and then I sampled colors from the image that I brought from Illustrator. So Illustrator, the image on the right, was a program that was responsible for creating that, and I did a mask in there, an opacity mask, so that it has this nice sloped cut and has dotted lines, and then a few graphic elements being that sort of grayish green and the rust colored lines. So I sampled the colors from that here in InDesign for the green and for the rest. So nothing crazy going on. There's no need for you to go to Illustrator and create that, because InDesign has those basic capabilities, and you should feel comfortable enough creating a rectangle with a color. Okay, so that being said, we're moving on to what's below it. And what is below it is there are two things. There is a field for an image and a field for text. So this was the layout that I personally wanted to pursue, just because it felt right. Okay, so whatever it is that you end up doing for your document, for the assignment, you may have a completely different view on what the layout needs to be. But here, this is just my intuition sort of taking over. So please don't just feel like you need to copy this. So we have an image on the left. It's a tall vertical column, which is perfect for the artwork that I found for it. And then I get into the text for the actual article. And I used the same drop letter technique that I showed you in a few videos before this. And the rest of it's all just placeholder text. And if I need to tell you again, just so you remember, that is something where you make sure that you're in the editing world of your type, and you go to type in the menu and choose filled with placeholder text, and it will fill it. Whoa, what did I just do there? I don't know what I just did. Nothing. Hopefully, nothing. Okay, there's something very special happening here, though, that you may not be able to tell, and that is that this field of text is directly connected to the field of text to its right. And what I did is I dragged a field for this area, and then I dragged a field for this area. So let's just do that. I'm going to select that and get rid of it, and I will select this one and get rid of it. So now there is no text going on in here. I'm going to take my rectangle frame and I'm going to drag a box that goes here. Come on, you can do it. There you go. And I'm going to drag another one that starts in this corner and comes down all the way into that image. So there are now two rectangles. These are frames that are waiting for content. I'm going to click with my text tool inside of frame number 1, and I will choose type fill with placeholder text. But notice that placeholder text just goes to the bottom of that frame and stops. So I will hit undo. I'm just going to get rid of that for a second. And using my selection tool, I'm going to take a look and sort of inspect the boundaries of this frame. And what I see down towards the bottom right is not the actual corner transform button, but right above it is a button that is called the link button. So if I click that link, it says, okay, where do you want to link it to? And I can say, up here is another text field. Please link it to this one. So now there's a live connection between these two pieces of text frames. So if I get my text tool now and click inside this text frame, and I do the same thing, type fill with placeholder text, notice that it goes and bleeds into the other page and wraps across. That is essential when dealing with layout copy publication. There are a few things that are different from how I had it set up, and the first is that I had 2 columns. So I select this first frame, and I'm going to go up to my control bar where my columns are, and I'm going to say let's have 2. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Click on that and say I want you to be 2. Okay, but by default there's a few other things happening here on this side of the page where I've already set it up to work with text wraps, but I should show you how that actually happens. So if I have this box selected and I look at my control bar, there are a few things up here that says no text wrap. So there's no text wrap happening with that box. Or I can say let's wrap around the bonding of that box. So when I set up the wrap for that box, which was simply a rectangle that was made just like behind here, I now tell the text that I want it to wrap around it so that it doesn't have overlay and get jumbled or lost or whatever. So this is a very common process in setting up magazine layout design. The text wrap can be a total hero. And in this case, at the bottom of this image, something tricky happening here. If I didn't choose to have a text wrap, the text would just go behind it or on top of it, and then I'd be, kind of screwed as far as being able to communicate the story that I'm trying to tell. But if I have that frame selected, there is a window called text wrap. I have it over here. And this allows me to go through the various options of a text wrap. So there's no text wrap set on the left button. If I say wrap around bounding box, it says, okay, well there's the bounding box for that file, and it's a rectangle, so we don't want any text going past that. And I say, no, not quite. That's not what I'm talking about. If I chose wrap around object shape, now we're getting into something a little more specific, and it's actually detecting the object's shape. It may not right away. You may need to go, well, where is it? To the bottom guy here, which is the contour options, and set it to detect edges, because it might just still think that even though if you have it on wraparound object shape, it might not actually get it to where you want to go. But since there is a transparency to that asset that I came over from Illustrator with, I can come down to the bottom of my contour options and say, hey, why don't you take a look and detect those edges? And it'll say, oh yeah, there's the alpha, there's the transparency. Now we'll just apply the text wrap to that. So the text ends up bouncing around objects or stopping at the edge of them. And it's a very helpful tool. This is something that even Illustrator can do. But in the world of layout, definitely you're trying to keep the viewer's eye and attention activated, right? So things like, wraps around shapes and images and things, just keep it a little more alive than just having it be straightforward, feeling more like, a business report. Okay, that's definitely not what we're trying to do here. So there is basic text layout within this document. Now if we just finish off with the advertisement, I did tell you that the composite work here started in Photoshop, followed through in Illustrator for the graphic designs, and then I placed that image here and took advantage of InDesign's type and layout features to finish it here. Makes much more sense to finish it here. So my logo is a placed image, the background is a placed image, and then the rest of it is all about creating different type setups so that they feel like a nice, solid, published piece. So that's that, and that should be enough to get you into your own designed publication for this project. If I feel like I forgot anything, or if I'm going to go back and cover anything, there will be one more video, but I think I nailed it. We'll find out. The other thing we're going to talk about later will be exporting and how to get our projects out of the program and ready for print or digital publication. All right, thanks a lot.